Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Rogue Trader with me, Rykad. Let's level up and then return to the voidship. So we get to select our new archetypes now. For my main character, I'll be going Vanguard. An unstoppable force on the front line and a beacon for their allies. Even when facing extremely heavy fire, a Vanguard only grows stronger in the crucible of battle. Core focus, frontline leader, defensive support, temporary wounds, absorbing attacks, and attack redirection. And they get Unyielding Beacon. Each attack against the Vanguard grants them +1 stack of Unyielding Beacon. Each stack increases their resolve by +1 up to a maximum of +15. All allies in a 2-cell radius around the Vanguard gain 1/5 of that bonus. Temporary wounds applied to the Vanguard now stack, but only remain stacked until the start of the Vanguard's turn. At the start of their turn, the remaining temporary wounds are reduced to the largest amount granted by one applied effect. If the remaining number of temporary wounds is less than the number of stacks of Unyielding Beacon, it becomes equal to the number of those stacks, even if the Vanguard has no temporary wounds at the start of their turn. Alright, for Pascal, I'm going to go with Grand Strategist. Masters of battlefield positioning for themselves and their allies. The Grand Strategist is able to increase the battle effectiveness of their party by designating and strengthening important parts of the battlefield. Core focus, battlefield control, ally buffs, unique utility, and enemy debuffs. It gets combat tactics. The Grand Strategist analyzes the battlefield and can create specific areas providing bonuses to all allies, including the Grand Strategist. Frontline, backline, and rear. In the first turn, all 3 areas can be created. In the following turn, only one of them can be created. All areas can be moved with the corresponding abilities and cannot overlap. If there are 2 or more Grand Strategists in the party, the combat tactics areas are common for all the Grand Strategists, and the highest intelligence bonus and fellowship bonus of all the Grand Strategists is used. There cannot be more than one frontline, backline, or rear on the battlefield. Regardless of the abilities used, the Grand Strategist always acts first in combat. So I'm split on some of the archetypes for a few of my companions. I want to try to avoid having redundant archetypes, but I also want to pick what I find is most thematic for each character. And I think for Heinrichs, the Arch-Militant is the most thematic, but same with Argenta. I think it's fine to select it for both of them because one's going to be a melee Arch-Militant and the other one's going to be a ranged Arch-Militant. So we'll start with Heinrichs. The Arch-Militant. An Arch-Militant is a formidable master of warfare, able to blend various weapons and styles mid-combat. Be it melee or ranged or anything in between, the Arch-Militant is the best at it, and becomes stronger and stronger with each second in battle. Core focus, versatility, large area attacks, personal buffs, weapon set rotation, and crowd control. And they get versatility. Whenever the Arch-Militant uses an attack that is of a different type from their previous attack, the Arch-Militant gains a stack of versatility. The types of attacks can be single shot, single melee attack, area shot, or burst shot. The Arch-Militant gains +5 weapon skill and ballistic skill for every stack of versatility. If the Arch-Militant has 4 or more stacks of versatility, the Arch-Militant deals additional damage, either via the weapon skill or ballistic skill bonus, whichever is highest. And then Heinrichs is also going to be a Vanguard. It's just too good for a tank class. I don't see him being an assassin. We've already read everything for that class, so we'll just skip ahead. And same thing with Argenta. She'll be an Arch-Militant, but she'll focus on ranged talents versus the melee talents that Heinrichs will focus on. And Cassia will be a Master Tactician. Always in the thick of battle, using their leadership and combat prowess, Master Tacticians are able to harness the momentum of their party to enhance the combat effectiveness of their allies and themselves. Core focus, scaling with party success, long-term single target buffs, momentum, and versatility. Alright, and the Master Tactician gets access to Press the Advantage, and tactical advantage. I press the advantage. The Master Tactician empowers their next attack to deal plus 4% additional damage for every stack of tactical advantage the Master Tactician has, and loses half of the stacks of tactical advantage rounded up. And tactical advantage, the Master Tactician gains plus 1 stack of tactical advantage per every 5 momentum gained by the Master Tactician or their allies. The Master Tactician begins combat with the amount of tactical advantage stacks equal to their fellowship bonus. I'll have to choose one or the other. Well, definitely tactical advantage. She doesn't attack, so the additional damage from pressing the advantage is not worthwhile. No, she does get both. Never mind, I missaw that. Also, apologies if I sound a little funny. I'm getting over a sickness. And I'm constantly fighting back coughing. Which is inopportune when reading all the dialogue or abilities in a game like this. Thanks be to the Emperor, you are alive, your lordship. We're most gratified by your return, and the crew is full of zeal to carry out any orders you may have. Before anything else, I'll hear an account of what happened to the system's sun. The Voxmaster falters. Lord Captain, we saw a number of ships approach the sun. Black creations of inhuman make, amalgams of sharp angles and edges. They surrounded the star and then... My apologies, but I struggle to find words that could describe that terrible sight. The Xenos made the sun vanish into the void. The interrogator closes his eyes and grimaces. Drukhari. You see Abelard's expression change, as if a shadow has suddenly fallen over him. He rubs his temple warily, as if we did not have enough troubles on our hands already. The Xenos, enemies of humanity. Heinrichs nods. A breed of the Eldari, the most cruel and devious of their kind. The design of their ships matches the description provided by the Voxmaster, and the stealing of the sun is also in their ballpark. Like all Xenos, the Drukhari are a blight on the face of the galaxy, but their technological superiority is indisputable. They abhor and fear warp sorcery, which is why they rely on creations of their twisted intellect. And many of those creations are capable of things that may seem akin to sorcery to the unenlightened eye. The theft of a sun is one example of what they are capable of. I know this isn't the case, but we have to ask. Are the Xenos in league with Aurora's cultists? We could rule out that possibility. The Drukhari would never ally themselves with the archenemy's worshippers. If I had to name one thing that humanity and those Xenos have in common, it'd be a shared loathing for warp corruption. Yeah, the Drukhari have to really avoid interacting with the warp, because they'll get eaten by one of the Chaos Gods, Slanesh. She who thirsts for Eldari souls. Also, Aurora would not, in most cases, Chaos Space Marines harbor the same hatred for Xenos that humanity does, because they are still, well, they used to be human, so they do retain a lot of those feelings. But not all of them. Heinrichs glances around. The situation calls for immediate action, Donald. We can continue this conversation later if you so wish, but right now... He gestures at the deck teeming with tumultuous activity. I believe you should assume command. But what is the current situation on board? The Navigator's Sanctum is no longer empty, but the warp engine is still refusing to obey the engine seers. Without it, we cannot perform a warp jump. Pascal's voice buzzes anxiously from his Vox. It may be angry, or perhaps it is lamenting the injuries it has suffered. I'll immediately initiate preparations for a prayer service. If the Omnissiah grants me comprehension, will appease the machine spirit of this vessel. Why did you not send a shuttle to the planet for me? I do apologize, your lordship, but we're unable to receive your request for evacuation. The Vox link was overrun with vile interference. Screams, blasphemous hymns, and other equally sinister noises. Any who listened to the interference for a protracted period lost their sanity. Several dozen operators went mad monitoring the Voxcaster in the hope of hearing your voice. Each one of them waited in vain. What is happening on the planet now? Our augur operators are reporting numerous uprisings and other manifestations of the archenemy's powers at various locations on the planet. Based on the fragments of communications picked up by our Vox operators, there's practically no resistance being offered by the governor's forces. Millions of people are converting to the blasphemous Final Dawn cult en masse and assembling in prayer circles. Well, that's no good. Do we have any hope of retaking the planet? I fear that Rykad Minoris is lost. The situation is deteriorating by the minute. We must leave this system as soon as possible. However, there are still people on the planet who have not succumbed to heresy and who are worthy of rescue. Besides a small number of our own shuttles, we also have the shuttles salvaged from the starport. The dark eyes of the Sister of Battle flash. We must save as many as we can. This has all happened for a reason, Saint Argenta. Sorry, that's not a comma. As Saint Argenta, whose name I carry with reverence and trepidation, is famed for saving the people of a dying world through the power of prayer. The God Emperor himself sent a star from the heavens that lifted the saint and her followers up to the sky, away from corruption and death. What we must do as she did, direct all our efforts to saving those people, who at this moment look to the heavens in hope of salvation. The lives of peasants are of little value. Our prime objective is to save the Holy Relic, the miraculous fusion reactor, and the Electro Priests who guard and tend to it. Abelard furrows his brows. Every moment we spend in proximity to a dying world, we're putting ourselves at risk. Your life, Lord Captain, is far more valuable than all of Rykad Minoris. The Von Valancius dynasty cannot be allowed to perish. And so, lamentable though it is, we must rule out the idea of any evacuation. Heinrich's eyes, like two deep, dark pools, are resolutely fixed on you. The world is doomed, and its inhabitants along with it. The disappearance of the star was the final nudge toward death, the finale of the Cult of the Final Dawn's plans. I once witnessed a similar event, a world that had surrendered to the servants of the archenemy, and permitted corruption to enter too deep. At this moment, millions of people are bowing down before those who promised them salvation, and they are willingly giving over their souls to chaos. A sacrifice great enough to bring forth a demon world. Our only hope of stopping this process is retreat to a safe distance from the planet and conduct targeted bombing of the Electro Priest Monastery. If we blow up the reactor, a thermonuclear reaction will follow. The world's oxygen will evaporate, killing off the entire biosphere. In doing this, we will save millions of souls from a fate far worse than death, and we will save Rykad Minoris from becoming an outpost of the archenemy. Whatever fate you choose for this world, I urge you to make haste, Lord Captain. The planet is burning in raging flashes of crimson and purple. I can see it even from orbit. As I do see that the storm is already upon us. With every moment that we waste, it grows ever more difficult and perilous to steer the ship through the warp's turbulent currents. I'm with the lady on this. Enough talking. We need to get out of here while we still can. So I'm going to go with option 3. I would like to ask this, but I don't know if asking it will lock out option 3 or not. Okay, let's just make a decision. We can inquire in future playthroughs. Set an optimal course and carry out an orbital strike on the Electro Priest Monastery. Rykad Minoris must fall. Yes, Lord Captain. I'll immediately inform the navigation and artillery decks of the impending maneuver. Heinrich inclines his head. The right choice, Lord Captain. May the sacred exterminatus cleanse this veil of corruption. It's not a full exterminatus, at least not a standard one. Normally when they commit an exterminatus on a planet, they use virus bombs and cyclonic torpedoes to break up the planet's crust. the virus bomb comes in, and the virus it's released eats all organic matter. It goes through, it eats everything living on the planet, and then it eats itself and wipes out everything. An atmosphere is also set ablaze so that, well, there's no atmosphere left. Nothing can survive on the planet. The bridge is in upheaval. The Technomat's prayers mix together in a senseless cacophony, while servitors work hastily to remove a hardened crust of sacred unguents from the warp engine's components. In the middle of all this tumult stands Pascal, with a data slate clutched in his hands, seemingly disconnected from the flurry of activity around him. But what is going on here? The warp sextant is not responding to commands. The ship's spirit is rejecting our prayers in anger. I'm currently calculating a plea that might appease the noble spirit. Magos, if you do not bring the situation under control, we will all perish. Act swiftly. Pascal shoots you with a look of fierce pride and says with gravity, "You are right. This is my temple." His vox booms with power. Tech comrades, heed my instruction. Mayhem immediately subsides, and the crew's actions fall into some indiscernible logic. The Omnissiah's servants start working in sync, and the binaric clamor becomes a symphony of reports, which the Magos coordinates like a skillful conductor. Admirably done, Pascal. The Omnissiah guides me. The prayers of the tech priests surrounding the cogitator almost drown out the sounds of the bustling bridge behind you. Pascal, poring intently over the data slate in his hands, extends a mechadendrite toward you. Please take your place at the cogitator, Lord Captain. First, explain what we were doing. I studied the data and discovered a machine node that was damaged as a result of the heretic sabotage. The functioning of the warp sextant was tampered with, and the ship's spirit, aggrieved by this violation of the right of operation, is now rejecting its calculations. I sought a way to rectify this error, and have concluded that your participation is necessary to do so. The cogitator systems of this temple of the Omnissiah are subordinate to the shell whose repository serves the machine we see before us. A machine created for your predecessor, and one that uses the biological signatures of dynastic blood in its computations. The spirit should recognize the ship's master and submit to his will. Should. Pascal speaks the final word with a slight tremor in his synthesized voice. That should sounded less than reassuring. Lord Captain, comes a crackle from Pascal's vox. Part beleaguered sigh, part interference. I am still poorly acquainted with this voidship. The acolytes here have adopted their own customs for conversing with the machine spirits. They do not know me, and they express themselves in a little-known dialect of Technolingua. I will trust in the Omnissiah that my analysis of the data was correct. It means we have a chance of appeasing the ship's spirit. Step up to the cogitator. The huge machine in front of you is lit with dozens of vid screens and hundreds of lumens. The blinking lights and endless rush of symbols and digits on the green background make your eyes water, and a vague sense of alarm simmers in the depths of your mind. A typical reaction of a layperson when confronted with the magnitude of the Omnissiah's creation. Among the numerous controls, you see the mouth of a cyber gargoyle, the same as at the gate to the warrant chamber. Pascal's voice becomes imbued with imperious force. Servants of the machine god, heed my command. Acolytes, prepare the incense instrumentation for the liturgy of machine spirit propitiation. Senior technomats, recite the prayer to generate a current data report. Operations will be marked with the campanological protocol, Omnissiah Rejoice. I must inform you that for the purposes of safety, complete reassembly of the warp sextant and updating its datasmith blessings are required. If this is not done, then at launch the volume of aggregate calculation errors could result in the destruction of the data crypts. But as we do not have 100 hours at our disposal, we must omit this procedure. Pascal looks down at the data slate in his hands. A minor deviation from the right of operation for the sake of appeasing the spirit. What must I do? Place your hand inside the throat of the Cogitator Guardian, the Cyber Gargoyle, which has been assigned to guard the forbidden data crypts. The dynastic blood extracted from your veins will serve as a key to the data core where the machine spirit dwells. To it, we will offer our prayers, so that we may bypass the protective protocol for defective connections and launch the Warp Sextant. Pascal's voice grows quieter. The laws of the Omnissiah know no exceptions. And so in this ritual, I'll remain at your side to placate the wrathful machine spirit, in whose abode you will be intruding. Follow my liturgies, Lord Captain, and may we receive his blessing. Deviating from the rite of operation. That sounds dubious, especially coming from you. Dogma bids that the appropriate rituals of cleansing and reassembly be carried out on the Warp Sextant. It is a long and labor-intensive process. Pascal hesitates before continuing. Our best chance is to bypass the sacred prohibition on directly interfacing with the conduits of the motive force. A faster and less orthodox route. The lives of the entire crew now depend on my convincing the ship's spirit to start up a broken component. Is that right? Your interpretation is verging on tech heresy. However, given your rank, Lord Captain, I will nevertheless respond. For a layperson, you've described our position with relative accuracy. I place my hopes in his revelations and humbly ask for his guidance. Listen, can you do all of this without me? I am no servant of the Omnissiah after all. The statement is true. In another temple of the Omnissiah, only his servant would be able to propitiate the machine spirit. However, the architects of this vessel's infrastructure made unsanctioned changes to the standard structure of the Cogitator network. Displeasure creeps into Pascal's voice. To equip the bridge with a machine that would permit its use by laypeople with a specific biological signature, members of House Von Valancius. Place your hand in the Cyber Gargoyle's mouth. Metal claws clamp down on your hand, breaking your delicate corporeal sheath and releasing warm red liquid into its gullet. At the same time, the image on the vid screen before you changes. Connecting 0000.1. Connecting 0000.2. Connecting 0000.3. Success register 789.0344. Access initiated, ID 8627. Okay, I'm not gonna read all that. Nam_OS operate respect act. Gesture at the vid screen. What does it all mean? At the sound of your voice, the Cogitator servant, whose bronze-bound skeleton is built into the Cogitator housing, shudders. With a screech, its skull rotates towards you, and then stops in that position. Benevolent code, a voice receptor. Pascal emits a sequence of binaric signals, and then is silent for several seconds. I hypothesize that the defect is located in the analyzer block. I register a reaction to the signal, but no processed response. A temporary override is permissible. The Magos intently studies the vid screen. The shell was created on a forge world unknown to me, initiating standard invocation of the machine spirit. Pascal leans over the adjacent instrument panel and sets his hands on the controls. At the same time, a quiet stream of machine code begins pouring forth from his vox. What should I do now? Lord Captain, I now ask that you address the machine spirit. Speak the following command. By my authority, I revoke the inviolability protocol of the warp engine. Excuse me. The voice receptor will receive the voice entry. Without your sanction, the machine spirit will not accept the data from the warp sextant. I reach out and touch the keys on the instrument panel. Input at compromised? Nam OS, stab true. Logic strength check initiated. Sector 567 greater than 245 damn. Sector 244 greater than 001 stab. Nam OS operate respect act. Lord Captain, Pascal stops and then continues more calmly. Please, you will anger the machine spirit before we remove the restriction. By my authority, I revoke the inviolability protocol of the warp engine. Whew, tough to read. One of the cogitator's vid screens turns red. Pascal sees this and raises his hand, signaling to the rest of the tech priests, then withdraws a connector from his sleeve and connects it to the machine. Servants of the Omnissiah, make now the offering of cleansed data crypts to the machine spirit, so that it may be filled with true and calibrated data. May the Omnissiah have mercy on our souls. In meek solemnity, the acolytes offer up the cleansed data crypts to the warp engine one after another, repeating prayers of exaltation. After anointing the contacts with sacred unguents, Pascal inserts them into the cogitator slots. Your head begins to spin from the holy censer's foul-smelling clouds of smoke, and from the loss of the blood that the cyber gargoyle continues to drink from you, and the world swims before your eyes. Let this mechanism awaken in renewed purity. Pascal enters a sequence of commands and raises his head, watching the vid screens. Suddenly, he stops dead. No. His fingers fly over the command runes, entering command after command. His mechadendrites, clicking their pincers, pull at one lever after another. The vid screens fill with strings of symbols, completely incomprehensible to you, but clearly conveying something to the Magos. What is happening? After a few seconds, one of the data crypts mounted on the cogitator begins to emit sparks. A moment later, another data crypt does the same. The next bursts into flame and gives off foul-smelling smoke. Around you, the Omnissiah servants break off from their prayers, and someone bursts into frantic pleading. Pascal mournfully grates out. The massive errors in the warp sextant's calculations is destroying the data repositories. The offering did not appease the ship's spirit. The warp engine cannot be filled with the motive force. We are trapped. A moment later, the Magos continues uncertainly. Perhaps an alternative Ryzen protocol, or an emergency launch of the auxiliary coils. The tech priest bends over the cogitator, but something in his pose and movements reveals his desperation. While the other vid screens are filled with more and more strings of symbols, the monitor in front of you blinks and its static image changes. Pascal is too engrossed in his ritual to notice. Read the information on the vid screen. Input pack comp nom os stab true, nom os operating system stab false, stat check initialized or initialization, perturb registered, disturb registered, nom operating system operate resp query. Magos Hanuman, a moment if you will. Pascal turns toward you, his flickering visor betraying his anxious state. Lord Captain, He stops short when he sees the vid screen. Distorted transmissions from the data core. Most likely, the residual cognitive functions of the built-in servitors. Omnissiah showed us some machine ghosts. He returns to manipulating the cogitator's command runes. Machine spirit, can you hear me? The cogitator servants creaks quietly in its joints, a sound that is drowned out by the binary hymns and the tapping of command runes. Input prompt nom operating system ping nom os required respite, or I'm not sure. Nom os operate resp injury, nom os operate resp rescue, nom os operate resp query. Machine spirit, this is the Lord Captain of this vessel. Obey me and start the warp engine. Pascal's voice shakes with tension. That was a non-executable request, Lord Captain. Even if the voice receptor could interpret such a... Pascal's next vocalization goes unsynthesized as he sees the vid screens begin to stabilize one after another. The strings frenetically galloping across the green background are replaced with stable images or regularly updating status reports. Only one monitor remains inexplicably red. Tech Priest Vox crackles in shock, but his report is as clipped and clinical as ever. Registering. Warp Sextant activated. Registering data stream stabilizing. Registering. Zero data errors found. Reporting. The warp engine is ready for translation. After a pause, Pascal adds, I'm also reporting evidence indicating a Category 3 miracle fulfilling the criterion. Thou shalt witness the mechanism that toils in glorification of its functions, and in defiance of deactivation. Lord Captain, Ravor here. The crew almost finished carrying out the orders given earlier, and I've just received confirmation from the engine steering halls. I don't know what you did, but the warp engine's up and raring to go. We're ready to begin the translation to the warp, your lordship. What just happened? Pascal pauses. I hypothesized the ship's spirit heard our prayers and intervened. It summoned the power of the Omnissiah to do something beyond my comprehension. I know little of the Omnissiah's sacred machines, but what I saw on the screen looked strange. A non-standard output of information lost in the data core. The servitors used as data conduits are not always fully lobotomized. Fragments of their thoughts can appear even in pure code. Pascal falls silent, immersed in thought. It appears the Omnissiah perceives and knows the power of your faith, Pascal. He would not have worked this miracle otherwise. I hope you will grant me a revelation to allow me to comprehend the nature of this miracle. Pascal's Vox buzzes with wonder and an undercurrent of exultation. Contact Ravor. The Lord Captain speaking. I give the order to commence translation to the warp. Waiting for you to ascend the Captain's throne, Lord Captain. May the Emperor protect us.
The Von Valancia's flagship made its way out of the doomed star system. As the voidship plunged deeper into the Coronis expanse, the rogue trader's subjects bid a formal farewell to the late head of the dynasty, Theodora von Valancius. Having paid their last respects, the crew gathered their strength and braced themselves for whatever was to come next.
Lord Captain, allow me to report. Our journey through the warp is coming to an end. Lady Navigator Orcelio informs me that we've reached a point where we can translate to real space in the Furibundus system. The Lady Navigator and her pilots are awaiting your permission to begin the process. The Furibundus system is home to Footfall, the only Imperium outpost with a functioning wharf in the Coronis expanse. The tech priests are begging you to have mercy on the machines worn down by the warp, and to allow the servants of the Omnissiah to inspect and heal the voidship wounds in the dock. The prayers and rituals will take some time, which our astropathic choir will use to establish a connection with the prime worlds of your protectorate. Gargonus, Janus, and Kialva Gamma. Master Zachary Weiss has recovered an invitation previously adrift in the Immaterium. The Legion of Footfall has humbly requested an audience with the rogue trader of the Von Valancius dynasty. According to Master Zachary, the message was tinted with shades of pleading. I quote, "Apparently the Liege is anxious to meet as soon as possible." Footfall, the place where filth and sanctity go hand in hand. Reverend Hieronymus Doloroso will most likely expect a visit from me. I imagine he will be interested in talking to you as well, Donald. I'll be leaving your void ship when we arrive on Footfall, Donald. Once that is done, consider the Lord Inquisitor's task complete. Your Lordship, young Yvain Winterscale has asked me to convey his gratitude for your hospitality and for saving him from certain death. Not wishing to outstay his welcome, he plans to disembark at Footfall. Lord Yvain swears he will not forget his debt to you. I hereby inform the rogue trader that during a comprehensive system inspection right, this unit discovered data clusters within the captain's cogitator that are concealed from prying eyes by means of a personal cipher and a sacrament of algorithmic authorization. Unit Donald von Valancius has been added to the access list and assigned the identifier Keeper 2. The unit can access the data from the captain's cogitator provided that he possesses the decryption key. You detect a hint of something resembling curiosity in Pascal's mechanical voice. Are you leaving us, Heinrichs? The arrangement between the Lord Inquisitor and your predecessor was that I be transported to Footfall and no farther. I dare not take advantage of your generosity and patience, any more than I already have, Donald. You're a skilled fighter. I could use people like you. What do you say we extend your stay in my retinue? Thank you for your offer, but I must decline. I'm afraid my duty to the Golden Throne comes before everything else. Argenta, who is this Reverend Hieronymus who wants to talk to me? He's the head of the Drusian mission on Footfall, and one of the most prominent clergymen in the sector. Paying him a visit is a good thing for any loyal servant of the Emperor to do. I assisted his mission before I joined Lady Theodora on her voyage. I need his blessing to accompany the new rogue trader of the Von Valancius dynasty. If you wish to have me aboard your void ship, I request that we meet with Reverend Hieronymus. Vigdis, tell me about the system we are arriving in. Your abundance is valuable due to its close proximity to the Maw, the gateway to the Imperium. The system is mostly known for Footfall, the main base for merchants, privateers, and rogue traders traversing the Coronis Expanse. Additionally, the star itself is orbited by an Adeptus Mechanicus station, which is off limits to outsiders. Altar Templum Calixus EXT-17. I had the honor of tending to this shrine for a few thousand cycles. I suggest you abstain from visiting it, as most tech comrades at the station are engaged in meditative calculations that should not be interrupted. What do I need to know about Footfall? It is the largest port and the trading capital of the Coronis Expanse. It has a dockyard that will allow us to inspect and repair the void ship, and it boasts its own astropathic choir, the Coronis Expanse Communications Nexus. Not to mention pirate hideouts, smuggler caches, and forts belonging to a dozen gangs, groups, and factions. And the Coronis Expanse, the Imperium relies on this as its outpost. The fringes of humanity's domain rarely resemble its central worlds, but so long as Footfall serves the God Emperor, insofar as it can, it'll be considered a citadel of the Imperium. Although, I have heard that the tithes it sends are underwhelming, to say the least. Due to Footfall's remoteness, it has developed its own rules and customs. Many of the goods that can be procured there would be considered heresy in the heart of the Imperium, enough to warrant summary execution. Moreover, Footfall is the domain of the rogue traders, who transcend certain Imperial laws by virtue of the warrant they bear. Footfall is just a brief stop. What next? As soon as we solve the issues plaguing this ship and establish contact with the key worlds of your protectorate, time will come for your Magni Accessio, the official ceremony of donning the mantle of the rogue trader. It is mostly a formality at this point. You already possess all the privileges granted by the warrant. And yet, it is a major milestone in your personal history, the moment your name graces the list of heads of the Von Valancius dynasty. We're all looking forward to that day, Lord Captain. Abelard, do you know anything about the Liege of Footfall? Vladimir Takara is a very peculiar young man. Consider your upcoming conversation a baptism of fire in Footfall's political arena. Such things are not spoken out loud. The Liege Takara is the appointee of the Kaspalika Mission, the largest robber baron crime syndicate in the Calixis sector. They specialize in the cold trade, the buying and selling of all kinds of Xenos rubbish. Footfall was previously run by a liege who did business with several criminal factions at once, but he suffered an accident. The reins of power were picked up by Vladimir Takara, whose appointment benefits not only the Kaspalika, but also the most powerful ally in the Coronis Expanse, rogue trader Caligos Winterscale. Vladimir is a slippery yet very cautious fellow. He does not usually beat around the bush and does not play mind games. Perhaps more importantly, he is no fool. Fools do not rise this high in the Kaspalikan hierarchy. Keep all this in mind. You are a rogue trader. You stand above him in status and wield considerable power. Having said that, history has seen cases where the Kaspalikan barons cross swords with rogue traders and emerge victorious. Do not forget that, and remain vigilant. The Kaspalika, foul tech thieves. Pascal's vox barks out the last word like a profanity. Why does the Liege want to see me so badly? Not you personally. He wishes to meet with the rogue trader of the von Valancius dynasty. Takara does not know about Lady Theodora's death, and is simply seeking an audience with the powers that be. My gut is telling me that something must be very wrong with Footfall, if our astropath managed to read such strong emotion and such an anodyne message. We have no information, Lord Captain. The broadcast from the Footfall Astropathic Choir was the only missive Master Zachary has received lately. Tell the Lady Navigator I give her leave to make the translation from the warp into real space. Victus begins issuing instructions. The massive ship appears to change with her every word. The bridge is set in motion as hundreds of people start to prepare for the shift to real space, and measured chanting fills the corridors to safeguard the vessel and its crew. Victus turns to you again. One more thing, Lord Captain. No one at the station knows about Lady Theodora's demise, and you inheriting the title. Liege Takara will be informed. It is required so we can use the dock, and besides, he's expecting a personal audience with the rogue trader. Do not meet with an unknown person of unclear standing. However, there's still the matter of announcing your arrival. You can either arrive on the station with the proper pomp and ceremony, or choose to visit it incognito. Tell me in detail how these choices will benefit me. According to Footfall's unwritten laws, rogue traders enjoy special privileges that exceed even the power of the Liege. However, they may not choose to exercise those privileges in certain situations. Arriving incognito will give you more room for maneuver, while an official visit will allow you to directly intervene in local affairs. I shall explain if you do not mind. As per this unwritten rule, every rogue trader arriving at the station has the right to veto any of the Liege's decisions. But there is a catch. The Coronis Expanse is home to several influential rogue trader dynasties, and Footfall is where their interests intersect. Of course, that does not prevent certain persons, namely Caligos Winterscale, from subtly pulling the strings in Footfall. If you, as a new rogue trader, start your career with an official landing and a parade in your honor, the other dynasties may see this gesture as the newcomer challenging their spheres of influence. I do not see that as a bad thing necessarily. Old Man Winterscale may take slight offense. Chorda will be put on her guard. But you've just risen to prominence, and most people in the Coronis Expanse have not even heard about Lady Theodora's departure yet. It must be made clear that the banner of von Valancius soars as high as ever. If I may, I would recommend arriving incognito. You have plenty of opportunities to savor the sweetness and the burden of power. But right now is the last time you can take refuge in obscurity. This way, your arrival will not draw much attention, and the people will treat you as a person, and not the almighty sovereign anointed by the Emperor. It could turn some situations to your advantage. I have decided. Tell the Liege I'll arrive officially, as the rogue trader. Yeah, as a soldier, we're not gonna play things subtly. We're gonna be direct. It will be done, Lord Captain. Victus bows again. With your gracious permission, I'll return to my duties. Alright, I'm gonna call it here. Next time, I think we'll check in with our companions and look around the bridge real quick. We also have a cogitator to inspect somewhere. Some trading we have to do as well, and I guess we'll head towards Footfall. But either way for now, thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next one.